there's a misconception that money is power, right? The power is in how money is used. And unfortunately, it has been misused in a lot of ways, right? And so the exchange can only happen when the most money in the world is in the hands of the best people doing the best things with the money, right? And the only way that imbalance is going to shift is by more and more people stepping up and saying, no, it is my divine birthright to be wealthy. And it's okay for me to have that desire and choose to be on that path and become rich always in all ways, because it's not just about the money, right? It's about being rich always in all ways, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, right? Rich with connections, rich with actions, rich, 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 rich. Rich isn't just tangible dollar bills in the bank, y'all.
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dave again, making the change, optimize your health and mind. Today, I have an amazing guest host with me. Her name is Jessa Carter, the Peaceful Millionaire. She has a history in neuroscience and neurosurgery, and now is an author, an inspirational speaker, and an advanced mind and money mentor. So hello, Jessa. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Dr. Dave. How are you?
I am doing phenomenal. So this show is all about making the change and optimizing your health and mind, which we're kind of symbiotes on this. That's how we met at a conference, and I could not wait to get you on my podcast. So there's a few things that we'll go over. Number one is a little bit about you. Number two, we'll go through some of the challenges that you've been through in your life. We'll get some actionable steps for people to do, to take some of your advice, and then we'll have them find a way how they can get in touch with you with your courses, programs, and workshops that you offer. How's that sound?
Amazing.
Okay. So why don't you tell me, again, neuroscience and neurosurgery to an advanced mind and money mentor is a big change. As me, I'm a cosmetic surgeon that turned integrative medicine specialist, and now I'm also getting into speaking because I figure I can help more people that way. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how your journey started, what got you into neurosurgery and neuroscience in the first place?
That part of the journey. So interestingly, I had a stint of childhood seizures when I was like 3 or 4, and had to go in and have the EEGs, and they put all the little electrodes on my head and the toothpaste in my hair. So from a child, I was just very fascinated by the mind, and I was an only child. So I think there's a certain capacity of like observation that comes in, of just observing other people. But yeah,
Isn't
just
that funny? I think only children observe everything. When I was driving with my son when he was like 3 years old, he'd be like, "Oh, look at the blue banana," and we'd be like, "What blue banana?" It'd be like 4 blocks later, and he would see this blue banana on a store. I'm like, "How did you see this thing?" It's just so hyper focused, I find, for single kids. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, but I had to get in there.
yeah, but that's really like my fascination with the mind started at such a young age. And
Wow.
when it came to going to college and getting a higher level degree, you ask yourself those questions. What is it that I want to do in the world? And I didn't feel like I had any clue. uh, what I wanted to do was help people, and I wanted to wake up every day and love what I did. And at the time, the only way that I knew to do that was the traditional route of school and things like that. So I did research and ended up becoming a physician assistant. And what's cool about being a physician assistant is you can then subspecialize in anything. And so when it came to like starting to do rotations and people asking me what I wanted to do, just from a personality perspective, I knew when I started PA school, I'm like, okay, it's either going to be emergency medicine because I'm just someone who likes to be on the go and I'm a very hands-on, tangible, like hands-on person, or some sort of like surgical specialty. So then when I did my rotations, I did a surgical rotation, and all it took was me being in the operating room one time, and that was like for me, I was like, okay, that's where I want to be. And I was fortunate that the general surgeon that I worked with, his wife was a physician assistant, and so he just said to me, he said, based on your personality, he said, please don't take this the wrong way because you are a team player and you work well with others. He said, but you're someone who works very well independently. He said, and for a student, for someone who's so green, he said that's really rare. So I really highly suggest for you one of the surgical subspecialties that the PAs have the most autonomy, which is neurosurgeon or neurosurgery, orthopedics, or cardiothoracic. And joints didn't fascinate me or excite me or interest me whatsoever. The heart thing that kind of freaked me out, but I was like, brain, I love the brain. So
Well, I have to tell you, I did my residency in St. Barnabas in the Bronx, level 1 trauma center. And it started out when you get called as a surgical resident, it's just such a problem. You know it's a headache because it's something no one else wants to do. So they call surgery. So we would always have those battles in the ER. So that when you said those were the two options, surgery and ER, I'm like, wow, you couldn't get more opposite. And then as a surgical resident, all we want to do is operate. So it wouldn't matter what was going on, whatever trauma, we're like, okay, let's go into operating room. That was the most exciting part. And I do agree with you. Some of the best PAs that I got to work with were surgical PAs because they're the beautiful part about surgery is you practice medicine and you practice surgery. So you get to treat the patient as a physician, but you also get to do hands-on. So that's an amazing transition in your mind. So now you're looking in minds, right? And we had a great trauma surgeon um, that was there. Um, a great trauma surgeon, um, Catherine Coe. She also wrote a book, and she was just amazing. She was, uh, sorry, my phone just stopped recording here. So she was just amazing as far as what she was able to do and command the room, and just the knowledge that she had and the stuff that she allowed us to do. I'm like, wow, this is somebody's brain, and actually using suction to get the brain off and not touching the brain. Like little things that you really have to have detail oriented when you're in that operating room because it's life or death almost every time in the operating. So tell me about your operating room experience, the first one.
the first, the very first one in neurosurgery.
The very first one as a autonomous neurosurgery PA.
Oh gosh. Well, see, the very first one is not what's jumping out to me. Like what's jumping out to me is like is
No,
the
right.
is
That's what I'm saying. Go to that very first one that you can remember. That had to be some nervousness there. Um, do you remember your first case? Can you remember it?
I don't think I do. I mean, gosh, I mean, because I did it for 10 years, and that's been many years removed now. So to think back to that very first case, wow. Okay, hold on, it's coming back to me. Coming back to me. I was nervous, right? Because all of the surgeons are different and you don't want to mess anything up and you don't want to touch the wrong thing and you certainly don't want to drop anything, right? But just personality wise, for me neurosurgery made the most sense, and my thought process going in was I'm going to be the best darn neurosurgical PA like that there ever was, right? Because I wanted to just know everything and be really, really freaking good at it. And I did that, and I think that's kind of part of the fascination of like how does one outgrow a career in neurosurgery, and that's truly what happened. And I think that um there is that saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I think that there's this just innate nature of us within us to grow and evolve and change. And so what happened was my own thirst and hunger for knowledge led me to knowing all of these things about the mind and the body's capacity to not only heal itself and be well naturally, but to succeed and to make success, wealth, peace, fulfillment, to make that inevitable. Like the power of the mind is so tremendously underestimated, I feel, because it really dictates your entire life and also your health. So if you're neglecting your overall, mind health, because, mind health and brain health are two different things, right? They go hand in hand, but they're two different things, because when you're talking brain health, and from a neurosurgical perspective, that's the physical brain, right? Those are those physical elements. What you put in your mouth has a lot to do with your brain health, right? What you watch, what you read, who you interact with, your emotions, all these things like play a role in your brain health, like your physical brain health. But your mind health is a whole completely different thing, and really understanding the power and the value of what that is. And so what came through for me when I was writing my book, um, and there's a mathematical equation behind it, but the mind is a $27 billion asset if you could quantify it, just so someone can really hold on to something tangible that is the value of your mind. It's a $27 billion asset.
We need to
and
go into this calculation because
and that
27 billion is a lot.
it's a lot, right? So, and then that your mind also has 27 billion kilowatts of power. Like that is how powerful your mind is, meaning that is how powerful you are as a being, to really create and have anything that you choose to have and experience while you're here in this physical lifetime.
I don't know if you ever read the book from Jim Quick, Limitless.
I
Uh,
have it on my bookshelf, but I haven't actually read it.
oh,
And I
it's
just quote you
amazing.
quick.
I make that part of my must reads, and he comes from a traumatic brain injury, and he was in school, and he had to find a new way to learn because the school system, it doesn't teach you to learn. It acts like you already know how to learn. I mean, it doesn't give you the tools to learn how to learn. It doesn't teach you how to speed read, where you get the most information out of what you're reading. It teaches you how to read the words. It doesn't teach you how to actually figure out how to calculate math. It shows you how to put a number and put a thing on the side, and it doesn't give you the exact thing. So his whole purpose of that book is also, like you're saying, he doesn't give it a number. He just says it's limitless. There's really nothing holding you back from that next step of where you need to go except us.
Well, and I'll tell you the reason that I do actually quantify it. There's actually a reason for that. And it's because, right, because we do live on this physical world, in this physical realm, on this physical plane. Your mind has a really difficult time conceptualizing infinite, limitless, right? So I use that terminology, but I don't use that terminology in regards to having you understand how valuable this thing is, and that's like right here in your noggin, because you as a human being need to be able to kind of conceptualize and wrap your head around it. And you can't conceptualize and wrap your head around limitless. And what does that actually mean? So
Right. We want some quantifiable thing that we could dig our fingers into, and limitless just doesn't give you that.
well, because it ends up, because limitless, because your mind automatically is hardwired to like want to quantify it and to want it to make sense, and to conceptualize it. Because you can't conceptualize limitless, what happens is you really disregard. So you're not actually you're not really bringing in that the value of yes, the value in the power of mind, truly it's infinite, it is limitless. But since your mind can't quantify that or conceptualize that, then it basically kind of goes in one ear and out the other. So it's not valuable for you on your journey, right, to being your best self and living your best life, to be like, oh, my mind is limitless. What the heck does that even mean? Who cares?
Right. It doesn't put anything into action. It's not like and that's why I always tell people, if you need a plan, you have to write it down. Right. So if you don't plan something, it plans you. So it's kind of the same concept. You have to have that tangible component of what you can actually do so you can achieve it. If you never put your dreams into a word or into a picture, you can't get it. And I think that's amazing. I love the way you picked a number, right? And we have so many different ways you can come up with your formula. But the reality is, like you're saying, people don't understand how big a billion is.
No, like if it was like actually when I was writing the book and the information came through to calculate it. And so do you want the story as to like
Of course, that's where we're going with this.
where the calculation came from? Okay. So, so I'm thinking about, okay, how can I support someone in the highest and best way in truly understanding how valuable and how powerful your mind is, right? And make that tangible, because that's actually one of my gifts, is like making the intangible tangible. And part of that comes from that background in neurosurgery of having to take really, really high level information and have a very human conversation with someone, right? Like if you hear the words, you need brain surgery or you need back surgery, and someone's talking to you about that in like medical knees, right? Like you don't understand, like, you know what I mean? Like most of the time when the physicians are talking, no disrespect, right? But like a lot of times they're talking above the patient's level and the patient's just sitting there, like deer in the headlights stare, because they don't understand, right? And so for me, talking to patients about surgery and explaining what that meant, right? Having brain surgery and what we did, or back surgery, and going through the anatomy of it in a way that was relatable, that they could understand, right, became a superpower. And so that comes through in my work of really being able to convey information that can be very high level, can be very esoteric, can seem very intangible, and make that intangible. So I'm sitting there writing the book and I'm thinking, okay, so well, what is the most valuable, thing, right? So like the most valuable gemstone in the world, right? So I start doing some research, and then currently, or at least when I wrote the book, right? At that moment, the most valuable gemstone in the world is the jaw-dropping blue diamond,
Mhm.
which is worth $4 million per carat. And the average human brain weighs, I think it's like around 3 pounds, 3.3 pounds, something like that. So if you were to convert the weight of a brain into carats and then multiply that by 4 million, you now have a $27 billion asset.
Like that.
And that's how my mind works. So I very lightheartedly say, like when people ask what I do, it's like, what is it that you do, Jessa? So the very direct answer is I optimize your mind for inevitable next level wealth, peace, and fulfillment. And I very lightheartedly say that I do mind surgery, right? Because, no scalpels or anesthesia required, right? Like you don't actually, it's very safe, it's very fun. And that's what I get to do.
That's great. I love the conceptualism of giving people something with teeth that they can really understand, and and helping them to see that how am I going to help you is by understanding that there's not really a limitation to what you have to do. Just follow these simple steps and we can get you that 4 billion, $43 billion success that you're talking about. And success is so different for everybody. What would you say? Um, have you gotten there yet?
Yes, because because how specifically wealth and success, because to me, the two things kind of go hand in hand, right? Like most of the time, if you're seeking greater level success, you're also seeking some sort of greater financial success along with that. And so, wealth and success, how you define wealth and success for yourself is how you will experience it. So it really depends on what your personal definition of wealth or success is. For example, like, and I'm not talking the Webster's dictionary, version of wealth
Right.
and success. Like your personal definition is how you'll experience it. So if you're chasing success, or you're chasing, which I did for a very long time, so there's no judgment in this statement whatsoever, right? If you're chasing that external societal driven perception of success, what happens is it feels like you never get there. It feels like you're always falling short, right? So then there's a level of unhappiness and unfulfillment that comes along with that. And so rather than bringing in the idea and the process of, well, I'm actually already here, right? Because you have to, in order to get to where you're going, you have to really be grateful and appreciate what it is that you have right now in this moment today, because it's what you have in this moment today that's going to continue to propel you forward, right? So, are you going to reach that next level of success faster by being really happy and grateful and excited about where you currently are and where you're going? Or are you going to get there faster by being ticked off because you don't feel like you're successful yet and you're constantly feel like you're like under the bar, right? So it's this counterproductive, counterintuitive thing that slows down the process, unfortunately.
And I think you're hitting on another excellent point because you're able to really have that type of communication with the people that you're helping. You start to see that everybody's picture of success is different, and the way that you talk to people about getting their success is different. Like when you're talking about like burning that fire, some people need that push. Oh, you're not good enough. You're never going to do it. And that propels them. Other people need, I coached my son's team with football, and I got that with the kids, right? Some kids really responded well to encouragement, and other kids really responded well to, you want to get on the field? Well, you got to play. You're not doing anything. You had to beat them down a little bit to make them build themselves up. And it's always a difficult situation trying to figure out what learning or what ways they need to have it done or what works best for them. And I think the way you go about it by getting into those conversations, you're able to really loosen that up and help them to see the best way they need to learn and get taught and get brought to that next level.
And the goal, right? The goal is to get there in the fastest and most efficient way possible, but also in the highest and best way possible. So for me, it's about feeling exquisite on the journey, right? Because the thing is it doesn't matter how grandiose the destination is. If you're not enjoying the journey, the destination is never going to feel as remarkable when you get there if you didn't actually enjoy the ride that got you there.
But it's difficult to always obviously always is a word, one of those words, right? You can never have an always. Um, I I find that when people are really going through some rough times, and I love to bring spirituality into it. I love to really lift people up in all ways, and whenever someone's hurting, but sometimes I don't know what to say. Like, I have an employee that has lupus, and she's in end stage heart disease at this point. She needs a heart transplant. And of all the people in the world, she gets robbed. She works in the Philippines. She's part of my virtual staff. Um, her name is Trixie, and we pray for her every day. She's struggling, and she gets robbed. Her computer's gone. That's how she made her money. She was doing my digital stuff. Her phone is robbed. So she reconnects her old phone, and she texts me, and she's like, I don't know what to do. I can't work for you. I don't have money. I don't have this. I don't have that. Why is God doing this to me? And I said to her, there's something greater for you on the other side of this. There is a lesson for you to learn from this. It's not going to help you feel better right now, but you have to understand that there's a reason for this struggle. And I'm learning now, as I'm going through some things in my own life, a lot of times you get hit really hard before you get blessed. You get knocked down to where you feel like I never want to get up again. And that's the one step that you take when you lift yourself back up that brings you to that next level. And I think a lot of people don't understand that about the journey. You really need to enjoy that journey, because that's the journey that test becomes your testimony, right? That part where you're a victim, where things are happening to you, turns into what makes you victorious. And I think a lot of people forget that the journey is probably the most important part. It's not the end of the trip, because success doesn't stop, right? It keeps going. So you have to keep going. Success is a journey, right? And I think what you're doing also is helping people to define what success is to them, and then giving them that road to achieve that. Because if you can't understand what it is to you, how you're really supposed to achieve it. And I love that, again, that tangible component that you're really giving people. Really, I can grab this with two hands. And I see now that there's a place that I can go off of that. And I think that's just a great way to really have people understand that this is the first step of your next step. So what would you say for yourself um, would be three of the most important things you need to be successful?
Ooh, three of the most important things.
Three important characteristics of success for you. So just to let everybody know, we do the show unscripted. She does not know the questions beforehand. We love it that way because we get real answers, right? So it
Such
doesn't
a
have to be the most important ones you might put in your book, but what's coming to your
it's
mind now.
it's such a beautiful question. And I think that the answer for everyone is different, but I think
Exactly.
you truly, there has to be a dream, right? There has to be a dream, just something so much bigger than yourself, that like those things don't make sense, but like there's just something, there's this dream, um and whatever it is, it's everyone has innate drivers truly to succeed and be wealthy, like it's in there. And and so you have to listen to that little part of yourself that, like, really, really, really pay attention to not what this wants, not what this wants, but what this wants. Like really, really getting like clear about what your heart's and soul's true desires are. And if wealth is one of them, that's okay, right? It's actually your birthright to be wealthy. And so it's very normal to for money to excite you, to, to drive you to have a more beautiful and blessed life for yourself, to be able to contribute to the world in a bigger and more beautiful way through contribution. Like you can do that through wealth, right? You
See, a
can't.
lot of people, like you're saying, I know that's where you're going, right? A lot of people like to say that wealth is bad, right? Oh, you can't have a lot of money. That's not what the saying is. And if you actually take that whole saying about that you can't have two gods, it's not talking about comparing money to God. It's putting money instead of God. It's not that money will never make you happy. It's what you're buying with the money that makes your life easier. You can enjoy things, but that's not where the joy is coming from. But that's why God wants us to have, or our higher power, however you want to say, whatever you believe in, needs to give you things that you can help other people with. Sometimes it's money, sometimes like what you're doing now, you're helping more people and it's not money, but they happen to have money to be able to use your services, but it's not the money that they're getting from it. It's what the skills and what they're getting as a result of that money that's enabling them to do those things.
The money, like I teach money very differently than most people, right? So money is a vehicle, right? It's simply a medium of exchange,
Exactly.
right?
A tool.
Whether that's for a, like a service where you're learning new skills and, you're having your mind rewired for inevitable success, or, or you go to the Apple store and you buy an iPhone, right? Like it's simply a medium of value exchange, right? Anytime, and it requires other humans, right? Like all money requires other humans, whether you're getting that money from a job, right, and you're collecting a paycheck, like that the money is still an exchange of human. You work for a company, right? People pay that company money for their product or service, and then the company pays you for your service that you provide to the company, et cetera, right? um and so it's just simply an exchange of value. But what has been taught externally, right, is that money is this intangible thing. Um, and the four worst words you could ever say is like, that's not for me, right? When it comes to like wealth or success and being rich and having a lot of actual financial wealth, right? Like most people don't even start on that path because instantly their mind, when they think of it, wants to be like, oh, that's not for me, right? Like on some level, that's not for me. And so you don't ever even go in that direction, but it is for you. It is for you. And it's not bad and it's not scary. And the unfortunate thing is the verse, and I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, but the verse that like money got so misconstrued around, it was actually not what it says at all, right? So it's not that money is bad, right? The actual language is that the worship of money is bad, right? Um and or that you're putting money above everything else, right? That money is the most important thing in the world, and nothing else has importance, right? And the thing is that's what got misconstrued, right? Because all of the money in the world, you can have all of the money in the world, but all of the money in the world isn't going to make you happy if you're mentally, physically, spiritually, or emotionally bankrupt. So you as an individual could have all of the however many 44 or more trillion dollars that there are in circulation today. You could have all of that money and no one else have any. And if you had that $44 trillion, but you were mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally bankrupt, it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. Right? So it doesn't, so that's really the misconception, right? is there's a misconception that money is power, right? The power is in how money is used. And unfortunately, it has been misused in a lot of ways, right? And so the exchange can only happen when the most money in the world is in the hands of the best people doing the best things with the money, right? And the only way that imbalance is going to shift is by more and more people stepping up and saying, no, it is my divine birthright to be wealthy. And it's okay for me to have that desire and choose to be on that path and become rich always in all ways, because it's not just about the money, right? It's about being rich always in all ways, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, right? Rich with connections, rich with actions, rich, 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 rich. Rich isn't just tangible dollar bills in the bank, y'all.
Well, I like that of always and always, right? That's a very good way to put it. And I agree full heartedly. I think money gets a bad rap. Um, it's made to help you get the things that you want and need, but it's not made to make you happy. A lot of times, and I use it for relationships a lot because we a lot of times you're in a relationship, and this is a really good analogy if you think about it. So you're in a relationship, and that you break up with that person, and now you're upset. You broke up with that person, but now you're upset because that person's not in your life, and you started to have those habits. And now I used to eat dinner with them all the time, and now I'm alone. Why am I so miserable? Because you're relying on somebody else for your happiness. And it's the same thing with money. Money's not getting you happy. It's making things easier for you. It's letting you do the things you need to do. It is giving you some power, but it's not the end all. You need to understand that, which is why it's attainable, which is why it's a tool for everybody to use, because it's not made for one person to have. It's made to share. There's enough of it out there in every country in the world. It's not
100%.
just in America.
Well, and the thing of it is, right? The thing of it is the, the when you find, right, when you find that the joy and the happiness is within, right? And you're seeking to fulfill those things from within yourself versus outside of yourself, right? Then you become, right, that's how you become a magnet for all of the things that you attract, right? That's how more money becomes easier, right? Because I mean, if you really break it down from a metaphysical perspective, right? You want to get into like a chemistry, like the metaphysical, the actual science behind it, right? Everything in the physical universe like is energy, right? You're a vibration of particles, right? Whether you're the solid desk or chair that I'm sitting in, or you're us, or your water, right? All of those things are made up of particles of matter, and everything's vibrating at a certain frequency, right? And if you are negative and hateful, and you're unhappy with yourself, you're unhappy with life. And that's the thing, is right. Like that ultimate and deepest unhappiness is that you're unhappy with yourself. And the only way to become unhappy with yourself is to create the change, right? You have to be the change that you choose to see in the world. And it's hard talk, it's real talk, right? The thing is like, you're the problem, but you're also the solution, right? So you can have other people support you on the path, support you on the journey, get you from where you are to where you want to be faster. But that other person can't do it for you, like as much as you would like for them to do, right? I mean, I would, and so there's days that I would love to see somebody come, snatch me up and put me on the next level boat, right? But if someone were to hand you $1 million right now today, right? That's not going to mean anything. It's not going to have the same feeling as when you earn that first $1 million yourself.
Well, and I'll give you something with that, right? So on that note, right? So we've in our lifetimes, like Lotto's been around, right? So when we were younger, $33 million lottos used to have people lined up around the block. Recently, in the past couple of years, we've had $1 billion lotteries. Do you know, I've never seen anybody that's won lotto become super successful. Why? Because they never had their journey. They never developed the tools that they needed to make something with that. So they get awarded all this money, and what happens? They waste it. They don't put it into the right avenues because they didn't go through the struggles that they needed to figure out what to do with it.
Well, and there's two things, right? There's two aspects of it, because there's the physical aspect of the skill set of not really knowing what to do with the money, right? And because they don't, unfortunately, we talked about traditional education a little bit earlier, right? Unfortunately, they don't teach proper, financial education or the possibility of being completely financially independent and financially free. Like, you don't learn those things in school, right? So you don't even know that's a possibility, right? Like, I mean, so that's the unfortunate thing, right? So you don't know what you don't know. So there's an information and a lack of knowledge that plays into that, right? Like, you win the lottery, all of a sudden you have millions or billions of dollars, and no, you have no clue what to do with it. And you don't even know who to go talk to figure out what to do with it, right? And you also don't have enough discernment to put together who's going to screw you over and rip you off versus who's not, right? Because again, you don't know who you can trust and who you can't, right? And so there's a whole bunch of reasons around that. But then the other part of it is, because there's frequency and there's consciousness and there's an energy to it as well. And you mentioned a relationship with money. And one of the things that I truly teach is and change for people is your relationship with money and elevating your consciousness for both wealth and prosperity, because you have to have the capacity to earn, hold, and grow more money, right? That you are like, okay, yeah, I can do this, right? Because otherwise, if you feel like, oh my God, if I had millions of dollars, I would be so stressed out and I wouldn't know how to manage it. And, like that money's not going to come to you, right? Like, it's not going to come to you. Or if it does, similar to the lottery, you're going to lose it, right? So similar to any other relationship, right? We have the relationship with ourselves, right? That is very important. Your relationship with yourself, you have a relationship with your family, you have a relationship with friends, with a partner, if you have a partner, right? And you have a relationship with money. It is an actual relationship. And similar to any other relationship, that relationship can either be like healthy and loving and supportive and peaceful, or it can be tumultuous and rocky and not so pleasant and something that you'd rather avoid and not go on a second date with.
Love that one too. All right. So we have a dream. We have your relationship, right? Relationship with money and life, right? And then what would you say is your third one?
And then the other one is like tool strategy and a plan. I love that you said that earlier, because there has to be the dream piece of it for me is supreme clarity, right? You have to have supreme clarity of where it is that you're going. And I love expanding that for people, right? Because what most people see, believe, and think is possible for themselves is smaller than what it is or what it could be, right? And so as you evolve in your own thinking and in your own consciousness, especially when it comes to money, like automatically that vision of how you get there gets given to you. I mean, it is mind-blowing, remarkable when you start to step in. Like, so I wrote The Peaceful Millionaire last year. I'm writing The Peaceful Multimillionaire this year, and I'll be writing The Peaceful Billionaire next year. And I had
Well, I think we're going to go to Peaceful Trillionaire. Forget about let's go. Let's level up here.
Why not? Let's go. But here's the thing. So like when I wrote the first book, I had the vision come through for the next two books. And so what I decided to do, like at the beginning of the year, right? Because people, it's like, oh, well, how do you jump, right? How do people make quantum shifts in their life and in their level of success and in their wealth? Like, how do these like big like jumps happen? And you can create them, right? And it's via a like a non-linear approach. Like most people's approach to things is very, very linear. And my approach to things is very non-linear, but also extremely intentional and strategic. And so just knowing what was coming with the titles of the next two books, right? And I'm like, okay, well, and then obviously, like I have to step up, right? I have to step up in my leadership, in my frequency, in my energy, in my own wealth, right? And so I'm like, so I just started at the beginning of this year saying, okay, I'm just going to start calling in those peaceful billionaire frequencies, right? That vibe of like, okay, what just, I don't even know what that is. I was just like, I don't know what it is. Just, I'm just starting to call it in. Right. And step into that because, that's another thing that I realized when I was writing the book. And you said earlier when I was talking about the mind being a $27 billion asset, right? Like until you like write out like how many, lot of zeros. Like if you've never actually seen like $1 billion like written out, like it doesn't even fit on a calculator. And I literally had to, I'm like, how many commas and how many zeros is it? It's a lot, right?
Yeah, I had someone show me with like a jar of pennies from like a million pennies, and like a jar of a billion pennies would fill up like a warehouse. Like you don't like how crazy is that? Where a million might be one room,
Yeah,
right? And a billion is an entire warehouse. It
of
just
pennies,
right.
of pennies, right?
It's crazy
Um,
just to be able to think about that.
Yeah, so it's like so when you really conceptualize these things, and so I just started, just calling that in for myself, that next level of like I know I'm going to write this book next year, right? And so here it is, January 2023. I'm like in 2024, I'm going to be writing a book called The Peaceful Billionaire. I better start stepping up some ish like now today, right? And what was so crazy about it was that was just something that I silently said to myself in January. And in February, I ended up at an event, a media boot camp with one of my friends and mentors. And we're having a VIP lunch and expert titles came up and I said, well, I go by the Peaceful Millionaire. I always struggle with the expert title thing because I really do a lot of things, but and so I said, do I say the Peaceful Millionaire? Do I say mind and money strategist? And she's like, well, it's both, and it's not right or wrong to say either. But she was like, no, you're the Peaceful Millionaire. And I shared the title of the next two books with the room, and her face lit up, and everybody else's face lit up. And she was like, that's it. You're the Peaceful Billionaire. You got to start being the Peaceful Billionaire now. And I was like, well, I'm growing into that, more of a step-by-step approach to going into that because I did write the first book and I know how many zeros that is and like, right. But it was comical because again, I had just silently to myself started kind of calling in those frequencies. So now here she's saying, no, call yourself the Peaceful Billionaire now. And I'm like, oh boy, right? Okay, that's a quantum leap. That's a quantum shift. Okay. So I start to embrace it and I reach out to my team because I have an event coming up that I was speaking at. And I reach out to my team and I was going to have them change all of my handles to at the Peaceful Millionaire. And they were like on social media, they're like, oh, it's not available. And I was like, I knew I should have gotten that sooner. Well, how about the Peaceful Billionaire available? And I was like, done, just take it now, right? Future vision, future self, just take it. And I did the day of that luncheon when she told me to start calling myself the Peaceful Billionaire. I bought the website. I bought the website that day, right? So here's a tangible takeaway. Never add time is one of the principles of the Peaceful Millionaire. If you happen to read the book, never add time. So I literally bought the web domain that day. The moment my team said, like, the Peaceful Millionaire is not available as a social media handle, I was like, Peaceful Billionaire, let's go. And then 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from someone that was like an invite only or training to scale my business to 7 figures a month and beyond. Which, and I was just like, well,
Give me that.
now, right? And so it's like, well, what's the path to billions, right? Like, in order to get to billions, you gotta, like the path to billions is millions and multi-millions and hundreds
Right.
of millions, right? So it's like, it's this path, but like, so that's what I'm saying. When you have such a supreme clarity of, of the dream and the vision, and you can truly believe the secret, right? The secret sauce is getting to the place within yourself that you believe that that is possible for you. Now, does it really matter to me if I get to billions? No. It actually doesn't. Like, I love the bigness of it. I love the frequency of it. I love that it calls me to rise to a level, right? Because you're like, you set the bar for yourself, right? So if you set the bar at 1 million, right, then hundreds of millions is not even a thing. It's not on the radar, right? So if you set the bar for billions and you fall a bit short, still doing all, like, again, it's just like that's so much money, right? So it's like you're doing more than all right, okay? Like, you're doing way more than all right. So does anyone need billions of dollars? No. Like, do you need billions of dollars? No. If I end up making billions of dollars, am I fine with that? I'm not opposed to that. Why? Because it's an extension of my good. It's an extension of the good that I can do in the world, right? So can I, as who I know that I am in my heart and my soul, do I know that I can do really beautiful, really extraordinary, really incredible things in the world with $1 billion? Right? I can change a lot of lives. I can help a lot of people, right? And so that's what I mean about that dynamic shift of whose hands the money is in, right? Do I need that much money? No. But can I do some really beautiful, incredible things with it? Yes. And that became my driving force, right? So I think below the plan of action is, it's okay if the money excites you, but what keeps you on the path of not quitting and not giving up is the fire in the belly, is like the thing, the part of you that won't turn off, because you find something that you're so passionate about bringing to the world. And it doesn't matter what that is, right? It's whatever is meaningful and passionate, whatever lights you up, because your zone of genius is completely different than mine, and it's unique, right? And so you're meant to bring something to the world that is unique to you, and you're also meant to contribute to the world in a way that is unique to you, because of those trials and tribulations, like you spoke about earlier, we've all had hard times, right? And so if if you know I don't know, if God, if spirit, source, the universe showed up tomorrow, handed me $1 billion, handed you $1 billion, right? And we were both like, okay, warriors of good, like, go do good things in the world with this $1 billion that you were just handed. You and I would do very different things with that money, with that same amount of money, right? Because what you're passionate about in your heart and soul, the change that you are passionate about seeing in the world based on your life and your experiences and what you've been through, and those hard times for you and the hard times for other people in your life, where you would direct that good is different than where I would direct mine, right? And it's this uniqueness that everyone has, to really, really bring their own gifts and talents to the world, in a really beautiful and powerful way, but then to give back and to contribute in a really powerful way.
And I think most people, especially when they make a lot of money, they do try to give it back in some way, and we don't always know the right way to do. The other thing that I also find is important, um, we try to listen to that little conscience sometimes. And you brought up this point before. Um, are you following your mind? Are you following your heart? And a lot of times you've gone through so many mistakes and you forget to follow that voice because it's hurt you. You felt betrayed. You don't realize the lesson that you were supposed to learn. So you kind of stop listening to that little voice. Um, and I think it's crucial for somebody like you, somebody like me, to point out to people, don't let those circumstances change listening to that voice, because that voice is you. That voice is telling you to change, and we don't listen to it. And if when you start following, it doesn't matter whether you're following your brain or your heart, you have to follow your purpose. That will bring you to the right decision all the time. And when we get caught up in our own trials and tribulations, a lot of times we put our purpose to the side and we think that's how we're going to get out of the situation. And a lot of times it's just looking introspectively, because a lot of times your purpose is coming out of some of those pains that you've had. And that's what's going to help you get out of it. So you do need to look back on it. And I have found some of the most successful points in my life have come from looking at my struggles and looking at my journey and seeing how that has shaped me. And a lot of times it's so I don't make that mistake again, but if you don't learn to listen to yourself, you're going to make the same mistake over and over, not learn the lessons you're supposed to learn, and not find a coach like you that can really help people's mindset go from, well, I don't know, to being, I'm unstoppable. So, why don't you tell me the best way for people to get in touch with you? Where can they find your book? How can they get some of your courses and workshops where you're speaking? So let's go first. How can we get your book?
You can get my book if you go to peacefulmillionairenow.com. Peacefulmillionairenow.com. There's a spot there where you automatically click on Amazon and it'll boop right to your door. And there's many free bonuses that come with the book. And so on that same website, whether you buy the book or not, you actually have access. Now, the secret's out, right? The cat's out of the bag. You have access to all of the free bonuses that are there. One of the bonuses is Design Your Peaceful Millionaire Life workbook. And there's some other really incredible, tangible things there. And also an opportunity to come to my 3-day intensive. So all of the goodies are there.
So the book is basically giving everybody the opportunity to grab a little bit of your experience to grow. And obviously, the best way to get the full force of the book is to that 3-day workshop, because there's no real way to get the meaning out of every page than to get it from the person that wrote it. So, how often do you do these 3-day workshops?
I do them normally once a month.
Oh, wow.
And but we're taking a little sabbatical right now to upgrade some of these systems and things. So the next one is coming on um June 22nd.
And where's that going to be?
It's virtual. It's on Zoom. You don't have to leave your house. And there's so much, it's there's so much that comes to life in the 3-day event that it's complementary to the book, but it's really an extension of the book in a huge way. Um, I it's incredible. I love giving away like so much value. So it's literally one of my favorite things to teach because it's so much fun and you can create so much transformation for someone in that short amount of time. And it's just really, really powerful. And I have to speak into because like there's a workbook, right? So with the 3-day event, there's a workbook. And you're gonna be doing some things, right? You're gonna be doing some things that are facilitating this change within your life and in regards and in relation to money, your relationship with money, your financial blueprint, all these incredible bits and pieces of it. But you have this tangible workbook that then becomes an asset to you that you all will always have. And I keep these things and I encourage people to keep these things because when I look back on mine from events that I've been through, it's so remarkable to not only see like what stood out as an aha to you like at that moment in time, but to also really have something that shows you like over time when you look back on it like wow, how far I've come.
I that's great. And all that information is on the website also, the same website?
Mhm. Yep, yep, because it's right there with all of the bonuses. So peacefulmillionairenow.com. Um, you can get you can get the book, you can get all of the bonuses,
On the
and
contact us page, is there email and all of that kind of stuff, so you have your staff get back to people?
absolutely.
Excellent. And what would be the email?
The email, oh gosh, the email with that one, it's a good question. I am actually not sure which email is linked on that page. I have so
It's
many.
okay because we can get that from the website anyway. The most of the point, the contact us page is kind of what's going to give you everything that you need to know. It'll get
You
somebody in touch with you.
Yeah, you don't actually need the email because there's like a contact the author form.
Right. And
So
you
you
fill
can
out all
just
your stuff and then someone will email you back and then you'll respond to that. So you really don't need emails anymore anyway. Um
yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm like, "Oh gosh, like I don't actually know which one's connected to that in the system."
that's what happens. You get unscripted. You ask silly questions sometimes.
Tech is I mean, I'll be very transparent. Like tech is not my zone of genius, and I'm very transparent about that. So I have people that help me with that and yeah, thank
In
goodness.
order to continue to be successful, you need to delegate more and more. And that's kind of my problem. I can't delegate well because I don't like to give things up. So I'm working on that part now, which is why I have 3 coaches. It's a
Uh
difficult thing to when you're such a perfectionist, right? Is giving people a chance to show up for you, and a lot of times we don't give them that opportunity. We take it away before they're able to do it.
Mhm.
And you have to have trust in yourself when you're training people that you're doing it the right way. And it's an effort. It's definitely an effort, which is why people would sign up for one of your programs where they learn the skills necessary to teach people how to help, right? Because probably one of the most limiting things that we have is making ourselves replicatable that people can really help, right?
Well, I think
So
I think the challenge, for so many people, myself included for such a long time is, they're for the really strong, independent, like men and women out there, asking for support, asking for help. Um, it's not easy. It's not easy. It took a lot for me to get to that place where I'm like, not only do I like need help, but I welcome it, right? And I speak into that in the book actually, because when you think about some of the really successful companies in the world, right? You think about Tesla, you think about Apple, you think about those types of brands and companies that are so huge, right? Like it takes a lot of people to make that happen, right? So Steve Jobs didn't single-handedly like get to billions on his own, right? No one does. And that was one of the biggest, I'll be so truthful, that was one of the biggest epiphanies very early on in my personal growth journey, was that I didn't have to do it all by myself because I had lived my whole life. You
Right.
have to do it all by yourself. That's how I was raised. So that was so deeply ingrained in me that when I was told that I didn't have to do it all by myself and that it was okay to have help, that was like, shh. Now, but then getting to the place of actually being able to receive, right? Receive the support, receive the help. Now, those are two very different things.
Right.
Right? So that's important and that's powerful and that's something for you to, have an awareness of and to mirror back to yourself of, okay, where do I need to, show up differently for myself, right? Just I love allowing life and other people and myself to be a mirror. Like for me, it's all one big mirror reflecting back to me. I'm like, okay, how do I need to grow? What do I need to change? Like, what's that next level? And these little things are constantly being mirrored to you if you pay attention to them.
Well, you brought up another really excellent point. Like when you're trying to um, teach someone something, a lot of times people are not accountable, right? So if I'm trying to teach you how to run my computer software and you keep making mistakes, a lot of people are like, oh, she's just so dumb. She won't learn. But no. If you train that person correctly with your knowledge, you have to reevaluate the situation and say, oh, let me retrain you. Sometimes, yeah, and I retrain you 3, 4 times. Yeah, I know this isn't going to work. But a lot of times it's that lack of training. There's this whole big spot that you let off because you took for granted that they already knew. And that's the piece that they needed to really understand what you're trying to have them do. So we really need to have that component of there's a reason that they're not performing, and I had a part to play in that.
Yeah, and I just and that actually brought me into like kind of circling back to like the belief, right? So like you have to believe they can do it, but they also have to believe that they can do it. So earlier I touched on like that secret, right? Is it's like you have to believe like on such a deep level that something is possible for yourself, right? So I always touch on the Napoleon Hill quote with the mind can conceive and believe the mind can achieve, and I do agree with that, and I do believe that, but I just take it one step deeper because human nature is to see and believe that something is possible for someone else. Like that's very easy. Like you can see someone else, you can watch me do it, watch Dr. Dave do it and be like, "Oh, well he can do it because he's bald and she can do it because she wears glasses and she's really pretty," right? And you come up with this like multitude of reasons as to why someone else can do it and why you can't. And so that's a very like natural habit, basically. It's really a habit, not a great one, but it's a habit tendency. Whereas so the shift is when you know with every fiber of your being, with absolute certainty, you know that this dream goal or desire is meant for you and that you can in fact achieve it. Right. So that's where that internal change, once that happens, like you can't turn that off.
Right.
You can't turn that off. And so there's so many tools and techniques and so much power, again, that 27 billion kilowatts of power that you use. So like success, anything you choose to have in this world, right? Like I speak into that powerful language, like make it inevitable, right? So I optimize your mind for inevitable wealth, peace, fulfillment, success, whatever it is you choose to have. And so so language is such a powerful thing. And Dr. Dave, if I was, if I were one of your coaches, can I coach you to your audience? If I were one of your coaches, I would make a change. Can I?
Of course.
So one of the things, so one of the powerful things that I do that's unique and different than that what most people do is actually literally changing, right? Reprogramming and changing the way your thinking logical mind speaks to your subconscious mind. And it's very strategic, and a lot of times it seems very minute. But there's a saying like small hinges swing big doors. So these small changes, even in language, of how your logical thinking brain speaks to your subconscious and also out into the world, swings a really big door. And one of them is to eliminate the word TRY or TRYing from your vocabulary. So, um,
I always say trying is another word for failing.
well, but it's not. See, so
No,
it's really, but it's
it
so it's not. I'm going to go two directions on that. So the reason to eliminate the word TRY and TRYing from your vocabulary is that your subconscious mind does not understand negative language. So when you say to yourself, for example, I'm going to TRY to lose weight, what happens?
you can't do it. Well, that's why I brought it to the failing part.
Nothing. Well, but it's different because again, the thing is your subconscious mind is the part of your mind that is actually creating your reality. So when you speak to yourself in that way and you say that I'm going to TRY to do this, you're basically telling your subconscious mind that you're not going to do it and that you don't in fact want that result.
Right.
So it's literally like you're completely like shutting down your odds and chances before you even like stepped out the gate. So that's part of it. And then in regards to failure, right? So there is no success without failure. Everyone who has success has in fact failed many, many times. So it's not about avoiding failure. It's about getting really, really good at failing and being willing to consistently fail forward. Because if you consistently fail forward, the only possible outcome is success.
True. Yeah, I have to say on 2 points. Number 1, the best part about my podcast is I get so many free tidbits like that. And number 2 is a lot of times, especially when I'm doing this type of podcast with people like yourself, I try to purposely throw things like that in because I kind of want you to make a point about it. And since we don't talk about it beforehand, I like to do that. But um, I try to do things that people do often. So I always hear try. Um, as simple as helping my son do his homework. Um, and he'll get it wrong, and I'll say to him, "Okay, so let's go back and check your work." And he'll say, "I tried." Well, I don't understand. You tried. I don't see you writing anything on the paper. There's no work to that try. So people really need to understand that trying is a step. It's not the end result. It's a step. You have to try to get to the next step. It doesn't mean it's good or it's bad. You have to move from that original spot. And to me, trying is just another step. And you need to step forward to advance your step all the time. And not trying, it's doing. You don't
Well,
get anything from the trying part. You got to get the knowledge from the trying part, the work that you're putting in on the trying part, because trying leads to the doing, right? You're not ever going to accomplish anything unless you're getting to that next step.
I have to politely and scientifically and mindtifically disagree, because similar to what you just described in that transaction of homework with your son, in the TRYing, there's no writing, there's no actual action happening. So there's no change happening.
Right.
So you eliminate the word because the word is actually useless. It literally has no substance. It's very diluting. It's a very diluting word. So much so that 99% of the time, even in a book, in a sentence, if you see the word and you drop it, the sentence will still make sense. That's how useless and diluted that word is. It's also very disempowering. So there is no TRY. You do or do not do. You choose to or choose not to. So you can choose to look back over your homework or you can choose not to. You can, in fact, do it and look back over it, or you can not do it, right? But you can't actually TRY to do it or not to do it because because TRYing is
Not an
not an
action.
actual action. It's not an actual thing, right? So in fact, you can't. So that's where, like, in the language, it's just a superfluous word. And what happens is it becomes an excuse. It becomes a scapegoat because you're going to sit there day in and day out and say, well, I was I TRY, I TRY'd my best. No, don't TRY your best. Just do your best. Right. I'm doing my best. I'm working on it. I'm working towards it. Right. There's a beautiful plethora of other words that are empowering that you can use that are still actually moving the needle forward.
So I hope everybody's listening. You got a free tidbit of the peaceful billionaire and peaceful trillionaire
That
about trying. That's not even a word. And I agree. I think they should take it out of the dictionary because it does nothing but procrastinate people. And we're in a world, we're in careers where we're moving people into the next direction. We're moving people into improvement. We're helping them change their mind and how they go about these things and helping them see success in a different through different eyes. Um, so I thank you for your time. This has been amazing. I cannot wait to get your book. I cannot wait to get The Perfect Billionaire. Um, and I can't wait that you didn't even know you were coming out with The Perfect Trillionaire until today.
I didn't, but now I know.
But now you have no choice,
Now
right?
I know.
Um, so we know how to get in touch with you, and I thank you very much. And keep your eyes out, everybody. This will be out soon, and pass it on to someone that you think can really benefit from this. There was a lot of good information here.
Well, and then when you go to peacefulmillionaire.now.com, peacefulmillionairenow.com, when you go there, if you buy the book, beautiful, amazing. If you don't buy the book, that's okay. Please take advantage of the free gifts and bonuses. That's why they're there. Hopefully that will entice you to get the book if you haven't already chosen to get it. But I've had just such incredible feedback. It's overwhelmingly incredible feedback from the book. And but if you do nothing else, go there and enjoy the free bonuses. And please, please, please just join the 3-day event, because that's where you're going to hang out with me for 3 days. And so if this was valuable for you, then imagine spending 3 days with me and diving into all of that wisdom. But it's not about the wisdom. It's about creating change for you. And that's really what the 3-day event is about. It's about transformation and it's about you.
Amazing. All right. Thank you very much, Jessa. Have a blessed day.
You too. Thanks, Dr. Dave.